When I started out gardening, I had no experience whatsoever, and starting a business definitely wasn't the goal. We just wanted a small piece of land so we could grow our own food, and we actually started with honeybees, and we even thought about getting chickens. But once I decided to turn this into an actual business, it completely changed the way I thought about growing food and what I should actually focus on. I learned early on that the best way to make a living on a small piece of land, about an acre or less, is vegetables. And since I was starting out on just an eighth of an acre, it became absolutely critical that I maximize both the space and the profitability of that space, maximizing the yield of every single square foot. I discovered that there are two categories of crops that can do that. And they both share 5 key characteristics that make them low risk, easy to manage, and ideal for beginner farmers. But there are 5 specific crops within those 2 categories that consistently pay my bills. And I wrote a business plan around these crops, and every time I've strayed away from that plan, I come crawling back to these 5 like a dog with its tail between its legs. And sure, I grow a few lower value crops today, but they're just add-ons. The truth is, they could never produce enough revenue on their own for me to make a living, and definitely not for the 3 employees who count on this farm to make their living too. So in this video, I'm going to share my 5 most profitable crops, what they are, and the 5 characteristics that make them so profitable, so you can use those characteristics to evaluate what might work for you on your farm. Yo, what up, Gromies? Welcome back to Chef's Harvest Farm. If you're new here, I'm Chef Mikey. I'm a former executive chef, turned urban farmer, and I turned my backyard gardening hobby into a 6-figure business selling organic vegetables to local chefs and restaurants here in Knoxville, Tennessee. So, the first characteristic I look for when deciding if a crop is profitable is days to maturity, or DTM. I focus on crops that take 60 days or less from planting to harvest, and I always take into account whether it's a direct seeded crop or a transplanted crop, because that can make a huge difference in the cost. If it takes more than 60 days from seed to harvest, I'll usually pass. Why? Because when you're farming on such a small space like I am, you have to be able to turn over every bed multiple times per year to stay profitable. On my farm, I can get 5, sometimes even 6 crops out of a single bed in one season. Short season crops allow me to succession plant, harvest consistently, and most importantly, get really good at it. Because when you do something every single week, you're going to naturally improve. The second characteristic I look for is the yield per linear foot. How much of a product can I harvest from each foot of garden space? Ideally, in that 60-day window. On my farm, I aim for at least a half a pound per linear foot on a 30-inch wide bed. That means I'm looking for crops that I can plant densely and produces a high yield in a small footprint. The third thing I look for is the price per pound. When you're growing on a small piece of land, like a quarter acre or less, you've got to prioritize crops that can demand a premium price. For me, that baseline is $5 a pound. If a crop can't hit that, then I'm probably not growing it. But in just a minute, I'll share how 2 of my core crops consistently sell for $13 a pound, and I move hundreds of pounds in a week. That kind of volume at that kind of price is exactly how I've made this farm profitable on such a small scale. And the fourth characteristic I look at is seasonality. How many months of the year can I actually grow a crop? Most of my most profitable crops, I can grow them at least 8 months out of the year here in Tennessee. There's usually a brutal few weeks in the dead of winter and in the peak of summer that slow things down, but outside of that, I can plant, harvest, and sell these crops over and over again. And that kind of consistency is a game changer, because when you can keep a product on your price list nearly year-round, your customers rely on it and you become essential. And that's what keeps the income steady, and that's what keeps the lights on. And last is popularity. You've got to grow crops that are in demand. I'm talking about things that people recognize immediately and that actually want to buy. This is why I only grow orange carrots. because everyone knows what it is. Most people have never seen a purple or a yellow carrot and would be hesitant to buy them. You can grow the most profitable crop in the world on paper that checks all the boxes, but if no one's buying it, you don't have a business. I learned these 5 characteristics that I just shared with you from Curtis Stone's book, The Urban Farmer. And these 2 crop categories check all the boxes. Leafy greens are without a doubt my most profitable crops, and we sell hundreds of pounds of salad greens every single week off a 1/4 acre garden, but they have a short shelf life. I never sell them if they're over a week old, so from harvest, I've got 5 to 7 days to move it or go straight to the compost. Root crops, on the other hand, bring in less money per pound, but there's zero waste. I remove the tops, wash them efficiently in a root washer that I built, and I store them in crates for up to 90 days. Efficient harvest, fast turnover, and long storage potential is what really maximizes their profitability. So here are my 5 most profitable crops, what varieties I grow, and how I plant them. Are you a beginning market farmer? If you're anything like me when I got started, you probably don't even know how much money you're actually making, or if you're making any money at all. I tried using QuickBooks to track my farm expenses, and it was a total nightmare. It's not made for farmers, and I couldn't categorize my expenses for Schedule F. I was constantly second-guessing my profitability. That's when I found FarmRaise. It's a bookkeeping app built specifically for farmers like us. I can snap photos of receipts and it automatically categorizes all my credit card transactions, perfectly organized and categorized for my Schedule F taxes and real profitability tracking. For the first time, I actually knew that I was making money. If you're serious about turning your farm into a real business, you need this tool. Stop guessing if you're profitable and start knowing you're profitable. Go to farmraise.com and use my code CHEFM20 to get 20% off your FarmRaise subscription right now. Don't wait until tax season or until you're broke to get your books in order. Start treating your farm like a business today. My number 5 most profitable crop is Hawkeye turnips. I direct seed this crop, and it takes about 45 days from seed to harvest. I plant 4 rows per bed at a 2-inch spacing and yield around 100 pounds per bed. I sell them for $5 a pound, so that's about $500 in revenue from one planting on a 45-day turnaround. Number 4 is red radishes. These are a powerhouse crop. I direct seed 5 rows on a bed at 1-inch spacing, and I sell them for $5 a pound with the tops removed. They also yield about $500 per bed, but the best part, they're usually ready in under 30 days. My number 3 crop is carrots, but not all carrots are created equal. I grow Napoli carrots, which have a DTM of 58 days, but they usually take closer to 65 or 70 days because of slow germination. I plant 4 rows on a bed at a 1.5-inch spacing, and I yield about 100 pounds per bed. I sell them for $6 to $7 a pound, and when I have carrots, I can't keep them in stock. Some restaurants buy up to 50 pounds a week. My number 2 crop is arugula. The variety I grow is Astro because it's heat tolerant and I can grow it in the middle of the summer. I direct seed it and it's ready in under 30 days. I get 20 to 30 pounds from a 50-foot bed and I sell it for $13 a pound. That's almost $400 in revenue from one bed in less than a month. We plant 2 beds every single week and harvest it in minutes using the Quick Cut Greens Harvester. My number 1 crop is Salanova lettuce. This is the only crop we transplant, so yes, the cost of production is higher, but I can sell up to 200 pounds every single week for $13 a pound, and it takes about 60 days from seed to harvest, with 4 weeks in the nursery and 4 weeks in the ground. So yields can vary by season, but in the spring and fall, I can get up to 100 pounds off a single planting, worth up to $1,300. Even in the summer, we pull 30 to 40 pounds per bed. Without these 5 crops, I'd really struggle to pay my bills. They might not be the flashiest crops, but building a business plan around them is what allowed me to turn my hobby garden into a full-time income. A few honorable mentions on my farm are lacinato kale and curly kale, which give me multiple harvests and I can charge $8 a pound and I can sell up to 50 pounds a week. Watermelon radishes, which bring in $7 a pound, but they take a bit longer to grow, and Badger Flame beets, which my chefs love, but at 75 to 85 days to maturity, they don't quite make this list. I hope this breakdown helps you think about how to plan your farm for profitability. And if you want to see how I harvest my root vegetables with my DIY root washer, you can check this video out here. Or if you want to see how I harvest, wash, and pack salad greens at scale, click this one next. I appreciate y'all being here, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Thanks, guys.